Welcome to Developing Apps with Oracle Apex. This video is on building an app using a public API. Hello, my name's David Peake, Product Manager for Oracle Apex. So we're going to start this video by searching for a public REST API that we can utilize for our application. So I'm just going to put in a search for USGS GeoJSON. And if we select this top one here, then you'll see that there's a number of different feeds that we can utilize. And the one I want to utilize is this one here. So I'm going to copy that link address. Let's just have a quick look at it. And you'll see that it's coming out with magnitudes, the time that it happened, the URL to get more details, and various other information that will make for a good application. So now I'm going to go across to the application builder, and I'm just going to create a new application. So I'll give this a name. And I don't actually need any additional pages, so I'll just create the application. So the first thing I need to do is actually define that web source. So I'm going to go into my web source modules here and create it from scratch. And I'll give it a name. And the URL endpoint. Now the endpoint doesn't need this last section here, so I'll just copy that off. Click on next, but I do actually need it for my URL path here, and I'll click next. For this service, there's no authentication required. It's a public API, so I'll just click on discover, and you'll see that I'm getting the information back. And I can see the various columns that are coming back through. But when I look at the data, I can see that this time is in Unix time. So I'd like to update this web source to include a new column, which is using the Oracle date time, so that I can utilize it in charts, in calendars, etc. So I'm just clicking on the module here, and I have an edit data profile, which I'll just click. And from here, you can see that I can add a column. So I'm going to call this one time as date. And it's going to be derived. And then I just need to convert my date. So it's 1970-01-01 plus time divided by 86.4 million, which is 864 and 5 zeros. Okay, and it's of type date. So I'll create that. Okay, so I'll just apply these changes. And now that I have this available, I'm just going to go back to my application and I can start building pages on top of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a calendar. And I'll just give this a name. I'll use a breadcrumb. I want a new navigation menu entry. And instead of local database, I'm going to select web source. And now I can select my USGS earthquake. Click on next. And I actually want to display the title. Time as date is good. And yes, I do want to show time. So I'll go ahead and create that. Let's just go ahead and run that page. So I need to log into my application. And you'll see there's quite a number of entries in here. Obviously, it's only going up to today's date. If I go back, you'll see there's entries coming through. And I'd like to actually differentiate between those that are under 5 and over 5. So I'm quickly going to edit this page. And here's my page definition so far. So if I actually click on the calendar, then I can go and specify some local post processing. I want to do a SQL query. So in here, I'm just going to add a new case statement. So when the magnitude is greater than 5, then I want to set the color to red. Otherwise, or else, I want to set the color to orange. Okay. and I'll call this CSS class. Okay, and then, oh, I've done something wrong in there. Okay, so I haven't spelt else correctly. Okay, now if I go into attributes and I go up into the filter here, I'm just going to type in CSS and I can change this to be CSS class, save this, and then run it. And you'll see that it's now clearly indicating the difference between the ones that are greater than or less than 5. So now what I'm going to do is just add an interactive report to that page. So down the bottom here, I have regions, and I'm just going to make this a bit wider. And I'm going to select an interactive report and simply drop it up underneath my existing one here. I'll just call it report. Again, I'm going to use my web source here, my module, and that's all I need to do. I can actually just save this and run it. And then below the calendar, you'll now see a report with all the different columns. And what I'd like to do is just rearrange those columns to something that makes more sense. So don't need the type, place, time, updated. I don't need those. I would like the URL, and then I really don't need any of that other than the time as date, which went right up the top. Okay, so now when I look at this, I'll see that I only have the date. I don't have the time component. So let me quickly go and change that. So if I go into the columns, select my time as date column, and then I can go down and give it a format mask. So we'll select that one, and we'll just run it one more time. And now I can actually go ahead and, for example, I want to see it in descending order, so I'll make sure I put that on there, and then I'll go ahead and save my report. And that's as a primary report, so that's how everyone will see this report. I can also add additional components such as charts, list views, etc., using the same web source that I've used to build these components. Thank you very much.